So this is lift and shift EBS on-premise to OCI, and this one we're gonna show you how to provision and clone EBS on-premise environments in OCI, and how to actually do the lift and shift portion as well. So first thing I'm gonna do, go to user settings, go to click on identity, federation, IDCS service console. And then we are going to go to groups, the navigation menu, and then click on add. And then we're going to give it a name. We're going to do IDCS EBSCM GRP. Just enter a description of your choice. Select next, and then since I've already done that, you would click finish here. You would click finish there, and then it would provision this group that you see that I've already provisioned here. And then we go to the users panel, click add, first and last name, and user, add this email that you see here, ebscm.admin@example.com. And then we are gonna uncheck this, use the EBSCM for the username. And then for the email, we're going to use the same email we did when we registered. So for me, it'd be click finish, and that would create this user that you see here. And then next you would assign that user to the group by clicking next, which is optional. So now we'll click on security, go to administrators, go to application administrator, and then click, you see that, we would create that, select, hit OK. As you see, I've already done that. Just to note here, the Cloud Manager Administrator will register the app as a confidential application in the next section, so we're going to need to log out and log into the new user we created. So let's do that. So at this point, we have created the EBS Cloud Manager Administrator group and users and the IDCS Service Console. And then the last task in preparing our tenancy for Oracle EBS is to register Oracle EBS Cloud Manager as a confidential application and within IDCS. So you would receive a email when you create your user, and you're going to want to click activate your account. I've already done that. So then you're going to want to create a new password when you do that, and click submit, and I've done that. And then you're going to want to document this password and your data file from the Terraform stack, which I will do now. So as you can see, this is the downloaded file that we'll need for this lab. So we go into our keydata.txt file and we add the password that we selected into our Tenancy admin password. And then Cloud Manager, actually in the Cloud Manager admin password. Of course, not the tenancy. You're going to want to enter the EBS username and password you just entered the screen to log in. We've done that because we see we're in the IDCS Service Console. We're going to click our avatar menu here in the top right. This will display a drop down. If there is no admin console to select, you're already in the admin console. So that's what happened here. And you can see it says administrator. So that's why there's no option to select admin console, because we already are in the admin console. So in the top right of the applications tab, when I click the icon to add an application, and we're going to select confidential application, which is OAuth 2.0, which is completely free. So on the details screen that we're in, we're going to enter the name, which is Oracle eBusiness Suite Cloud Manager. Description, optional. We can just go ahead and click next. Configure this application as a client now. Under allowed grant types, we're going to select client credentials, refresh token, and authorization code. Here we're going to set our Cloud Manager URL. For this lab, we're using the following example URL. So we're going to save this URL here in our data.txt file. So we're going to go do that. Here. Click save. Port 4043, that alerts me that it's HTTPS protocol. So using that Cloud Manager URL that we just saved, we're going to append that URL with the following values as shown below to enter your redirect URL. So we will append CM auth and callback to the end of our Cloud Manager URL. For logout URL, we're going to leave that empty. For our post logout redirect URL, we are going to append some different stuff to our Cloud Manager URL, namely the root login. Select the introspect option for allowed operations. So can't find it, so we'll do a Command F. Intro. There we go. Under grant the client access to IDCS admin APIs, we're going to click add. We're going to select authenticator client and me in the pop-up window. And then we're going to click add again. So we're going to click next at the top of the screen. On the resources screen, we're just going to click next. On web tier screen, we're going to do the exact same thing. And by the way, this is my first time going through this lab. Like, I didn't, study ahead of time or anything. So I'm learning this as I record it because I can. On the authorization screen, click finish. So we're going to make note of these values in our key data txt file under client ID and client secret. Just double checking that. No, see, I didn't do it right. Command C, whoops. There we go. If you need to, we're going to close this. If you need to view these values again, you select the configuration tab and they're right here. So now we're going to click activate to applicate our application in the eBusiness Suite Cloud Manager. So we're going to click the avatar. Select the avowed option. We're going to copy the value displayed for the instance GUID. I'm sure that's probably gonna we're gonna record this as client tenant in the key data text file. I'm sure we're gonna have to populate all these at some point. So now we have prepared our tenancy for Oracle eBusiness Suite. So now in the next phase, we're gonna deploy and configure eBusiness Suite Cloud Manager. So now let's sign into the OCI console. So using our tenancy administrator credentials. So now we're gonna sign into our OCI console. So click sign out here. Sign out here. Just log in with our tenancy administrator credentials. So now we're going to deploy and configure eBusiness Suite Cloud Manager using a marketplace stack. It's going to provision, a compartment, a IAM user and group, as well as the policies required to manage that compartment. Networks resources including a VCN, internet gateway, subnets, route tables, security lists, and security rules. A compute instance for running the eBusiness Suite Cloud Manager. So let's go to Marketplace. You can see I've already maxed out the number of pens. Select all applications. Which is for default. Select stack under filter type. In the search bar, I'm going to type eBusiness Suite. Click the application Oracle eBusiness Suite Cloud Manager stack for demos. And in the drop down list, we're going to select, ensure that the default is selected. We're going to select, make sure we're in the root compartment. The manage, just to note, this managed compartment for PAS is a reserved compartment for OCI, and a lot of it behaves weird, so I wouldn't recommend using it. I'd, you just provision additional compartments if you want to get out of the root, but for this, you definitely need the root compartment. Review and accept the terms, and we're going to click Launch Stack. On the stack information screen, we're going to, for the name, we're going to do default. Yeah, it's so out of the box name, we're going to go with the default. Last two variables should be grayed out, and they are. You can add tagging for metadata and tracking purposes. We're going to select Terraform version 0.12.x, and you see that Terraform's always constantly improving versions, and previous versions become deprecated. You'll see this is you can click this link here if you need to see which versions are currently supported by Resource Manager, which is Oracle Cloud's native in-console version of Terraform. If you want to do more point and click versus code based. So we're going to click next. Sure. Test. On the configuration variable screen that we're in, we're going to enter some values for the resource prefix. We're going to select the name of our file directory that we downloaded that contain the Terraform stack. A single compartment setup, make sure that's checked. Parent compartment, choose root. EBS cloud admin username. Server host for EBS Cloud Manager login URL. We're going to do VM standard.e2.2. EBS Cloud Manager admin password. Just to note, for pertinence, this password is what will allow you to log into the Cloud Manager instance that is created and can be different than the user password for logging into the IDCS admin console. So it can be different. I'm not going to make it different because why make it complicated? Well, it seems like I have to. has to be one of those 3 special characters. So we're going to add this password to QText data file. So for the public key, we're using an existing or generate a new SSH key, paste the public key pair. So alright, so let's open up the Cloud Shell and generate a public key pair. Are we doing this? I guess we're doing this. The Cloud Shell is 5 gigabytes of ephemeral storage on demand, which is free, completely free, and you can use the Cloud Shell to troubleshoot instances when you have connectivity issues, both through Windows for an RDP or a Linux through the terminal or through an IDE. You see it throws our name and the region identifier, which is a combination of our region and availability domain that we are currently residing in, right here. So let's generate our SSH key pair now. So we're going to do make directory .ssh. This should be rote memory by now. cd.ssh, and then ssh keygen, key generation, -b 2048 -t rsa -f cloud shell key. No passphrase. So you see the Cloud Shell, we do a list, we see we have a Cloud Shell key and a Cloud Shell key.public, and so you know obviously by deduction that the Cloud Shell key is the private key and the Cloud Shell key.pub is the public key. And we are going to make sure we copy all this down, concatenate. So now we're going to paste our public key file here. Availability domain, choose the AD that ends in -1 from the list, because you can see from our Cloud Shell that we are in -1. It stands for availability domain 1. And Phoenix is one of the 2 regions in the U.S. with 3 availability domains, the other being Ashburn. So that's, I always like to put customers in Phoenix or Ashburn based on east or west, but to each his own. Custom slider ranges leave unchecked. EBS Cloud Manager access slider, the open set, to allow all IPs to access it. Enter the values from keydex data from our keydata.txt file below. So we're just going to do that. Click next. We are gonna minimize the cloud shell for now. Now we're gonna click create. This is gonna, now we're in the stack details page for our newly created stack. You'll notice that the job status will cycle through the accepted, then go to in progress, and then finally to succeeded. This will take some time to complete. After this job succeeds, we'll have all the network resources, specifically the VCN, the load balancer, the subnets, the security nest, the route tables, the route rules, required to deploy the Oracle EBS Cloud Manager compute instance. So you can find the details related to EBS Cloud Manager instance and the load balancer at the bottom of our log outputs as shown below. And this is more of what Terraform looks like natively in the terminal versus console. Obviously these are just the logs and not the plan, apply, destroy commands. So now we are going to copy and paste our private IP, public IP, login URL, and finally our load balancer public IP to our keydata.txt file. And these variables are going to be needed for the remainder of the procedures in this lab. So Terraform stack finally succeeded. Promise I didn't do anything different. Just takes a while. You can see with these how verbose these logs are. With 35 resources being added, that's quite a bit. A lot faster than pointing and clicking, and that's a reason why Terraform exists. So let's go ahead and copy these values of enough of my soap opera. Private public login URL. and load balancer IP. Okay, that's weird. Let's go ahead and add this record. So now we deployed our EBS Cloud Manager. And now we're going to update our data TXT file. So we're going to go to administration. Tenancy details. And we're going to jot down the following: the Oracle Cloud Tenancy name and the Oracle Cloud Tenancy OCID. And this is how we have a CS9 number. That's how you know our support account is linked to our cloud account. Now I can do a demo over that as well. So tenancy name. I went to UT, so you know, definitely horns up and no gigums around here. Tenancy OCID. I don't see an option for that in there. Maybe it doesn't need my tenancy OCID. Seems like I've filled out all the constants and variables and IDCS app details. So we should be good there. Shouldn't have to put anything else in our TXT file. So we're going to also region identifier. So yeah, it's US Phoenix Phoenix 1. Just save your open up a notes file. I recommend open up a notes file, paste in your public key and your tenancy OCID and your region identifier all in your notes tab. Everything that you didn't put in your data.txt file that it asks you to copy down. So part 2 is user info. So we're going to navigate to identity, and then we're going to go to users. And we're going to go to ebsadmin@example.com. And we're going to want to copy the user OCID. And your key data.txt as cloud manager admin user OCID. So I'm just going to do tenancy OCID. Paste our tenancy OCID in there. Seems like we need to create records. Region identifier. Cloud manager admin user OCID. This should definitely be in the constants. And you know, I want to put this in the constants as well. It shouldn't change. The net cloud name and region identifier can definitely change when you change the region of your compartment or your home region, or you can even change your cloud name. So I wouldn't count those as constants. And we are going to put our region identifier in there. Then we're going to click make sure we didn't do that. That's why we have an alien in my head knows. And then we're going to click API keys in the bottom left, and we're going to copy this fingerprint. And let's just record the OCID of our compartment. It was created in your key data txt as Oracle Cloud Compartment OCID. Root compartment. We're going to go into our actual compartment. OCID copy. First, we're going to copy the name from the lab. So now we are going to log into our eBusiness Suite Manager. So we're gonna, before we do it, we need to add a host name and the login URL to your local computer host file. So we're gonna edit localhost file on our laptop and add an entry. So we're gonna navigate to our notes. Oh. So so we're just gonna open up a terminal window. Finder, applications, utilities, terminal. So we're going to enter this command to edit our local host name, password of your laptop for admin user, we're going to type I to edit this file because we're in vim, which you could tell by the vi sudo vi command. So root user VM in the directory /edc/host. So we're going to go to the last line. And we are going to add the following entry as shown before. So we're going to add our load balancer public IP and mybescm.ipshell.org. So let's get our load balancer public IP. and escape, semicolon WQ. Wow, that is something I say every time. So we're going to type the login URL that was generated and documented to our keydata.txt file previously in the browser. At this point, we're going to get the login URL generated in our keydata.txt file. So, boom. So, grab it, copy, go to our browser, paste it, connect to. Now we are going to log into our eBusiness Suite Cloud Manager using our IDCS credentials for the EBS Suite Cloud Manager account. It's going to, take some additional time for the load balancer to be properly configured. So as you can see, it's not getting into the client yet. So we can check this by going to networking. So just to reiterate, it can take 30 minutes to an hour for the load balancer to provision. And we can check the overall health status. And everything looks good. We like green. So now since we see it's okay, the connection can be established. So just a note here, if your login URL is not working, or if your compute instance which contains the Cloud Manager image was ever stopped or turned off, you may need to check and see if the application is running. The command for this can be found in the lab managing the EBS Cloud Manager virtual machine, which you'll do through an RDP. And your browser may give you an error when attempting to access the EBS Cloud Manager. If you run into an error using the EBS login URL, try using a different browser or an incognito session. If this does not solve the problem, try adding semicolon 443 after the URL. So let's do a command N, do a command N, so we can make sure we don't need to any cookies. Let's try. So just make sure we get the same thing. Yep. So that was part one of the lift and shift on-premise EBS to OCI. Notably preparing our tenancy for the eBusiness Suite, Oracle eBusiness Suite, and then doing the Oracle eBusiness Suite Cloud Manager deployment and configuration. And then in the next one, we will do provisioning our eBusiness Suite environment and cloning our eBusiness Suite environment as well. And then after that, the follow 2 videos from now, we'll be migrating EBS to OCI by creating the source Oracle EBS Suite environment.